Brought to you in association with Grendel Press. This is Werewolf the Podcast, a serial killer drama.
Oh, tiptoe through the window, by the window, that is where I'll be. Come tiptoe through the tulips with me.
Hello, this is Werewolf the Podcast, and this is episode 112. Yeah, it's a lot in it. Anyway, in the description there are loads of things for social media and things to do social media things with, the Facebook group and TikTok and Instagram and Twitter and all those things where I'm supposed to do things. But yeah, so if you want to interact with me, that's good. The Facebook group is brilliant. I love them. They're really funny. So go and join that at least, because it is pretty cool, even if I do say so myself. This week, Werewolf the Podcast will be on Pod by the Fireside by Gregory Alexander Sharp. We're doing 5 interviews about werewolves, because we both know a lot about werewolves for werewolf reasons. So that's available on Spotify and all those wonderful things as well. I'll leave a link to that in the description, as well as his book, because he's a really good writer, which is really annoying. Yeah, but whatever. Anyway, let's get back to the series. This one is about fishy fingers. It will make sense, I promise. Anyway, let's go. John, spelt without the H and using the pronouns he/him. Jacqueline, she/her, and spelt with a Q-E-E. I don't know. Shared the hyphenated surname Smith-Mungbean. They are currently driving home in their Prius, a car without a soul, from a dinner party with friends that they hate, to their damp boho houseboat on the Thames. They're not speaking, well they are, but arguing as always, because John was gaslighting, whatever the fuck gaslighting is, Jacqueline about her repurposed car tyre clogs. Him, as usual, knowing she understands the finer points of the arguments about barefoot shoes and the need for correct foot spread and alignment, but him not accepting that she also needs to show her support for the leave us alone people of Go Away Please Island in a way that all her friends can see her support them by wearing the shit shoes that the locals of the said island make for stupid tourists. Let's set the late night in the outskirts of London scene. The sky is damp, dark, and overcast to suit the mood within the car. Remember dark and damp, as it will be important in the later part of this podcast. In fact, you may recognise it as a clue as to what in fact is going to happen. I mean, it's not a big clue, but it's definitely a clue. I used in fact there. To all you editors around the world, I used in fact, and there's nothing you can do about it. Just a personal joke there. Where was I? Jacqueline. Oh, aye, thanks, man. Jacqueline works as a PA for the third in the series of younger and prettier wealthy wives of some billionaire knobhead or other. She is called, the third wife, not Jacqueline. The third wife is called, it's something. In fact, it's irrelevant to the story, but is in fact the trophy billionaire's wife who needed a hobby. So she started a charity that supports the leave us alone people of Go Away Please Island as they fight diseases such as chlamydia, herpes, and obesity. These diseases have been introduced onto the island by people from a charity that offer support against herpes, chlamydia, and obesity. So you can see it all works out in the end. John, remember him? He does something in the city. It's in eco-recycling thingy-me-bobbles, but, we never find out about it, as he does CrossFit. He trains in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and is a vegan. So you can guess he has no time to discuss any other aspects of his life than these 3 things. On their houseboat, the Pequod. Yep. Yeah, he's one of those type of people. They have 2 non-gendered theybies. Not babies. Theybies. Because they would be free to choose their own special pronouns as they grew older. They're called Tarquin and Papyrus. They also have 2 large Labradors, each with the yearly carbon footprint of a Range Rover. One called Coco, after Coco Chanel, the renowned Nazi sympathiser, and the other called Elvis, ironically, in brackets, who showed an unhealthy interest in young girls. I mean, the man and the dog had this uncommon, unhealthy interest in young girls. The dog only bites them, somewhat reasonably after a cruel incident as a pup. The King of Rock himself, he liked to On their way home, John and Jack stopped at Mr. Patel's on the corner, as usual, because they believe you should shop at and support local businesses, not those large conglomerates. They also always used their hemp shopping bags to carry the only 2 items they bought there: quinoa, I said it right, it's not quinoa, and almond milk. I don't think they realised that Mr. Patel has to buy in said items so that they could support him, not knowing he ordered them from Amazon and then charged a couple 5 times the price he paid for the privilege of supporting him. Mr. Patel liked the funny posh people and laughed at them and wondered how you milk almonds and what the fuck quinoa really was. They'd argued from the car to the shop in a manner that modern posh people do, that loud, whispered, shouty method as they walked through the deepening puddles, not paying attention to them. Another clue. The arguments seemed to be everything. In the shop, they returned to being the perfect couple and had patronised 3rd-generation immigrant Mr. Patel with a nasty mix of Hindi and Gujarati in some unstructured sentences. But Mr. Patel did not mind. They were mad, but paid over the odds and never tried to steal anything. They did smell funny, though, of damp. Another clue. But they did live on that houseboat. They never shut up about. What was it called? The period? As they made their condescending goodbyes, they continued the argument from the shop to the car, once again splashing through the rain. They did not notice the man and the giant wolf soul on the corner. Well, the wolf soul was only visible to me, so they wouldn't have seen him anyway, but they'd not noticed me either. Fen and I were following their conversation with some sick interest. In a 1950s movie, I would have been smoking a cigarette in the shadows, but I don't smoke, so I wasn't, and wolves don't smoke because they're not stupid. John and Jack stood out. I don't know why I want to say it with like a French accent. John and Jack. I don't know why they stood out. They were just walking stereotypes that needed to be fucked with. John opened the car's boot and carefully placed his hemp bags into his specialised canvas bags that might be the reusable bags that would save the world. As he closed the boot of his vehicle, I noticed the Surfers Against Sewage sticker and the River Action Charity sticker on the bumper. Another clue. Could this couple be any more... just any more... The argument continued as they climbed into the vehicle and closed the doors. It was the politest argument I'd ever witnessed. It seemed as though they lived in this perpetual state of bickering. Maybe that was their thing. I couldn't be asked if it was me. I was pondering whether or not I would interact with them when they decided it for me. The Coldplay and U2 playlist came through the speakers at a fucking reasonable volume, and I just before the car moved, I grabbed the back door and Fen and I got in. "Good evening. 22 Kensington Place, please," said the shadow in the back seat. I mean, me, obviously. I was the black shadow in the back seat. John and Jack had become frozen and silent. "Only joking," I laughingly said. "I know you're not an Uber. I just saw you arguing and decided to join in. It seemed fun and interesting, so carry on if you would. And, where are we going then?"
"Are we nearly there yet?"
The couple had solidified momentarily in their preheated seats while trying to comprehend what had just happened. Something was odd about them, but I couldn't pinpoint it. It probably was just these type of people were not used to reacting to shit like this. Probably that, and there was an awful stench in the car. It was like rotten fish. Clue 13. Jacqueline, with the QEE, turned to face John without the H and mouthed, "What the fuck?" at him, whilst shrinking forward and away from me. John frowned and shrugged back at her whilst mouthing, "I don't know, back with angry body language, as though she was accusing him of getting this man to step in the car and setting something up. What a bitch! Jacqueline, with the QEE, then pointed at me in the back. It wasn't like John was unaware that some strange man had just got in the car and mouthed to him whilst overemphasising the lip movements. "Do something!" I sat forward, between the seats, and leaned in on John and Jacqueline. "Okay, pal. What are you going to do?" I asked before turning to Jacqueline. "Actually, don't you think that's a bit sexist? I mean, why the fuck should he do something about this? I can tell by your demeanour and my ability to stereotype people without a care that you're a feminist and all that stuff, so should you not be the one fighting the corner for yourself? Equality and equanimity and all that bollocks." Fen was staring at me, a little disappointed. "That was a bit dickish," he said. "Well, we're trying to wind them up, are we not?" I answered. He shrugged, but I could tell he was not impressed with my petty behaviour. I don't like it when he's unhappy with me, and I felt myself get a bit pouty like a told-off toddler. The couple looked confused and nonplussed, so I sat back in my seat, continuing with my enjoyable monologue. "Ah, I see you two always arguing and never happy with each other." I paused before explaining the obvious. "I mean, I can understand why. She's a controlling bitch, and you're just a bitch. John, is it?" "Now, that was funny," Fen sent me telepathically. I smiled. This would be no fun if we weren't enjoying it together. Hey, listeners, do not judge me here for my words. Well, I don't give a fuck if you judge me or not, but I didn't believe what I was saying at all. It was all part of the wind-up. I felt this pontificating would stir the shit to a point I wanted. The point where the fighting couple would join together against the cunt in the back of the car. Or maybe do the opposite and make them realise they hated each other. Who knew? I just wanted to fuck with them mentally. Well, maybe physically as well. They were hot in a weird way. This would be an interesting evening. I mean, they were kind of boho hot, you know. He had long-haired top knot and a too perfectly trimmed beard, and she had perfectly tousled, rough-cut hair that probably cost about £200 or £300 to get to look like that, you know, rough and uncared for, but cool. Maybe I'd got this all wrong. Maybe I should have used the charm offensive and see where the night went. Anyway, it's a little too late to start again. They did smell odd. Damp and fishy fungal fug was in the air. The smell was probably because they used some soap or clothes detergent that was ineffective at cleaning but good for the environment. Maybe, I'm not sure. I couldn't help staring at her breasts. Sorry, I know that isn't very good of me, but they were just there and all breasty. They were bra-free and under a linen vest that from this angle revealed a hairy armpit and a lovely, lovely right boob. The view of the hairy armpit made my mind wander to what would be down below. Would it be the 1980s full-on unlooked-after bush? I could see her legs unshaven, so I would guess yes. Why is this so hot? Hairy and hot. Very nice. I was distracted, but my focus was drawn from my delightful view as the man started to address me. John was one of those poor fools that believed that everyone could be reasoned with. I'm not too fond of this type of idiots. They think they can sort their way out of any situation, and that fairness and ethics and shit are something that we all share and believe in. This would be a lesson for him that some of us are not reasonable. He turned his body, offering me calming body language as he slowly reached into his pocket. Fen and I both got excited at the possibility that he had a weapon. Maybe he had a knife or a gun. Perhaps it would be fucking pepper spray if he was a bit of a softie. Sadly, he took his phone from his pocket and showed it to me. We were so disappointed in him. "Look, buddy," he said in a controlled and assertive manner, "if you don't get out of this car right now, I will phone the police, and then what happens? Happens. This is not funny. You are scaring my wife here," he said, pointing to the one beside him, who bravely turned to me and nodded with terrified eyes. John pointed at the door of the car with his finger. I followed the pointed finger with my eyes to where it pointed, then back to him, then at Fen, then at him, and then again at the finger. Oh, okay, thank you, I said. As you've put it like that, I'm really sorry. I see the error of my ways. I apologise and I will leave the car immediately. Thank you for that opportunity, I told him. I could feel the relief pour out of the two of them. I opened the door and made to step out, putting my left foot on the tarmac and half getting out of the seat, where I paused for a moment as if in consideration. Yes, that's right. Keep going, she said. It's the best choice. My husband is a purple belt in BJJ. Oh, dearie me. Although I was doing what she wanted, she had to give a parting dig. She had won, but she had to rub it in. Oh, these people who think they are safe in the world. I mean, I was going to get back in the car anyway, but now I had a really good reason to get back in. I now had to show these wonderful people the real world and how it is a little different than the real world that they think is the real world. I could almost smell the man's reaction to this stupid comment from his wife over the car's pungiosity. Is that a word? I could sense the why the fuck from him, if not hear it. He just stared at her now. He just stared in utter disbelief. I slumped back into the seat and smiled. The man was not shocked, but exasperated, and I could see him think about his next course of action. He would probably ask her to get out and fuck off herself, because she had said such a stupid thing. People are not often put in these situations and have very few ways to react to such things. Sadly for him, her reaction was to look at her husband in a "what are you going to do about this now" manner. As he was distracted by her stupidity again, I snatched the phone from his hand. He looked at his empty hand, as though he could not believe what had just happened. I smiled at him, snapped the phone in half, and gave it him back. I hope that doesn't void the warranty, I told him, laughing. He smiled in response, a rather impressive display of confidence. Pass me your phone, Jack, he said to his wife, not taking his eyes off me. Pass me your phone. You've messed up now, buddy, he told me. I don't have it, John. You know, I don't believe in taking it to social engagements. It's rude. Even in a situation such as this, she had to fucking virtue signal. Again, I laughed. Ah, shit, John, what are you going to do now? I could see him thinking about it. What was he going to do? Jack, go to Mr. Patel's and get help, please, he said very calmly. The woman nodded, preparing to leave. Jack, you get out of this car and you and him will regret it forever, I told her. She looked at me and then at him. I could see the thoughts running through her mind at lightning speed. Jack, go and get help, John said. Don't get out of the fucking car, Jack, I told her. This was funny. Playing with this person's head was so much fun. What was she going to choose? I broke the tension. I know. Let's go rock, paper, scissors for it, John. See who she's going to listen to. You're not funny, he replied. You are, came from my posit, reassuring me. Get out of the car, Jack, and get me some fucking help. Oh, he was swearing now and adding exclamation marks to his sentence. Oh. I could see that the cursing from her husband had made her realise how important this was to him. She looked shocked. I think more by his profanity than by what was happening. Yeah, okay, you better get help, Jax, I nodded, my tone of voice giving her permission to go. This was going so well. If she opened the door, I would drag her back in and become the wolf, offering them the nature that they were so fond of protecting, showing them that nature is far more powerful than them, and although humans had caused the mother some grief, she would be the winner in the end. Sometimes I recognise that I am a self-righteous arsehole, but I like it. Huh? The sound came out of her mouth. I was a bit confused and turned to Fen with my mouth open. The man in the driver's seat flashed his face towards... flashed. The speed of his movement was beyond human. He was looking at me and then looking at her in milliseconds, and then he started to talk back in the same manner. The noise buzzed in my brain. It felt like blue bottles were locked inside my skull and battering around in it, trying to get out. Huh? I managed before Fen hit me with a telepathic shout. Oh shit, Nixies! What the fuck are Nixies? I asked. I think a conversation of some kind was going on in front of me between the passenger and the driver. It was super fast, as though it had been speeded up on film, and as they spoke, things began to change. The air began to smell worse, even more like damp and smelly and of ancient mud. Condensation formed on the inside of the windows, and as I watched, their skin began to take a wet sheen, and a greeny blue tinge started to spread down their bodies from the hairlines, which started to recede as what looked like green iridescent scales started to form on their skin. As I watched open-mouthed, their mouths became gashes, thin and lipless like a fish's, a predatory fish with teeth long, pointed and as sharp as knives extending from pink mottled gums. Human noses shrunk away and turned into slits for nostrils. Eyes expanded and became fish eyes, large, yellow and wet. Their necks disappeared into their bodies as their arms grew, as did their claw-like hands. A difficult argument was going on in the front of the car between these two creatures, and they seemed to have forgot about me entirely. Fen? I mentally whispered. What the fuck are these things? These things, Will, are Nixies. They're really, really fucking bad news. They're spirits, and not a physical thing, but they can do physical shit to physical entities. Kind of get what I mean? So, we wolf out and wreck them, yeah? No, Will, we get out of the car and run the fuck away. Did you not hear me? They're gonna fuck us up, Will. The two fishy-looking folks in the front of the car were now angry with each other and kept pointing at me and then at each other, so it was time to leave before they got back to me being the focus of the issue. I transformed into my werewolf form, my gigantic body bursting forth from my clothing as I roared into the world, releasing the monster I was. I sat there in the semi-dark rear of the car, a deadly black shadow. As I opened the pale amber fire pits of my burning eyes, I was somewhat shocked to see the two fishy fuckers reaching for me with thin, gangly arms. They showed no fear, if they could show fishy fear. They were just trying to restrain me in the back of the car. I started to thrash and rip, but they were much faster than me. I was biting and gnashing at them, but they were too quick. I could not get hold of them like that, and when I did grasp a wrist, I had my grip broken simply by one of the creatures as it smiled, an alien-like smile with far too many fangs showing for any kind of comfort. One creature's fishy fingers reached towards my face with its sharpened claws pointed at my vulnerable eyes. I struggled as it wrapped those wet, slimy, cold hands around my head. The other Nixie held me easily, pinning me by the wrists in the seat. I couldn't move, and the restrainer vocalized its joy as the other drove its thumbs deep into my eye sockets, quenching those amber fires that burnt there. The pain was intense as lights burst in my mind, as did my eyeballs with the pressure of those sharp digits entering my skull. All my world was pain, as hooked fingers were wrenched to remove the eyes from the torn sockets. Were they going to leave me blinded? I could recover from that. I could get better. But I didn't feel that was all they were going to do. It felt like this was just the first assault on my body. They were going to take their time hurting me. I knew it. It's the kind of thing I would do. It is strange how your mind wanders and focuses on strange things during horrific, gorific moments. I could still hear the two of them, even though I could not understand what they were saying. I could swear that these creatures were still arguing. I could hear it even in the funny noises they were making. Fen yelled in my head that we needed to get the fuck out of the car, but I couldn't move. I was powerless and pinned. I started pushing and stretching against the front seats with my feet, knowing my superior strength would be able to rip this car apart. The seats buckled and moved, but then were held by something. It must have been the Nixies themselves. Were they that fucking strong that they could hold back all my strength? I was getting fucking fucked up here by fucking fish. I was going to die by fishy-looking fellows. What the fuck? I'd got in this car just to teached a couple of lessons, and the tables had been significantly turned. What was I going to do? Well, it was simple. In essence, I was going to die. I was going to fucking die. The fishy fingers were back and getting deeper into my skull. Yes, fucking fish fingers, and not the crunchy breadcrumbed version, the scaly fucking pointy kind. I tried to lean forward, but they were quicker and stronger than me. I felt my blood running. My skin and my fur were ripped and torn by strong hands. My life started to ebb, and the pain was at a point where I would soon not be able to stand more and would pass out. All I could do was wiggle as they laughed in a very fishy kind of a way. Can fish laugh? Well, these fuckers could. I then heard some music playing at some distance. I thought it must be my walkout tune to the next life. Not what I would have picked, but it seemed to be changing what was happening around me. The Nixies slowed their assault and stopped talking or making noise or whatever they did, and for some reason they just slowly let me go. I felt the thumbs drawn from my skull, and the tearing of my flesh just ceased. It was quick, and as if they'd left in haste. Their noises were now those of pain and hurt themselves. Music was still playing. It was being blasted at the car from the outside of it, and then the pressure and the smell of the creatures was gone. Moments passed as confusion occurred outside the car. Then there was only the music as the door I was partially resting on was opened and I fell out onto the damp tarmac floor. The blasted tune got even louder as something approached and stood over me. I couldn't see it, obviously, because I had no fucking eyes. But I knew I would heal. I just needed time. Would I get it? Were these things torturing me? What was going on? The smell altered. The damp, foisty smell had gone and been replaced by another, much fresher, but very recognisable smell. Ah, shit. This wasn't getting any better. My senses were returning and I could feel something or someone come and crouch over my prone body. I thought more was coming, maybe the, coup de grace, maybe more pain, and I was waiting for it. It was...
I'm back, motherfucker,
came Sally's voice over the beats and the sound of flapping fishman feet running into the distance. And that's the end of the episode. We will continue in the next episode. I hope it was an exciting one that had twists and turns and fishy fingers in it. Please like and subscribe and do all that kind of stuff and share this and tell your friends about it and have a nice life. And, as always at this point, I like to say, I love you. Bye!
By the window, that is where I'll become tiptoe through the tulips with me.
Brought to you in association with Grendel Press. This is Werewolf the Podcast, a serial killer drama.